We are ready for a brand new season here in our Colorado Rockies draft-only franchise. And this is the first season that we have had that has some actual expectations, I would say. So before we hop into open day, there are a couple of things I would like to talk about for this franchise series. And the first thing that I want to do, if I can find it, is I want to do this every couple of years, but I want to go around the league and just take a look at some of the young stars, so you have an idea of kind of who around the league are some of the drafted players that are making an impact in the league. And of course, the best drafted player in this series is Rafael Murillo. There's no surprise there. He was in the first class and he has been a stud ever since he first started playing professional baseball. The next highest drafted player from this series is Richie Covey at 88 overall. He was, I believe, in the second class year of this franchise and was a generational player. Hasn't developed a ton, I would say, still not yet to reach the 90s overall, but is of course a very good player. He's already in arbitration. I saw that he won his arbitration hearing in the offseason screen, which is kind of wild. He'll be a free agent at 25. We'll see if he sticks around with the Athletics come that time. After that, you got Jason Lindsay. He is probably, if you had to pick, the one that got away in this series, he is probably the best player that we could have drafted. I wouldn't even say probably. He is the best player that we could have drafted that we decided not to. Had I known it would have been so difficult to get this sort of skill set in this series, I might have drafted him, honestly, even over Jose Barreto, but don't tell Jose that, because of course we're still very happy with Barreto as well. After that, you got Dwayne Perry here with the Phillies at an 85 overall at 22 years old. He's coming off a really good year last year. It's one thing that I actually want to go back and do. I want to show you how these guys are actually performing, not just their ratings. Covey so far yet to actually hit 30 homers, and you can see why he's not developing. He's not hitting as well as you would think he would for his rating. That's why he's kind of developing at a slower pace than you would expect. Lindsay last year hit 17 homers, had a 283 average, OPS in the 800s, and had a 6.7 WAR his second straight year with at least a 5 WAR. He's been awesome for San Francisco, and even though Covey's better rated, he's been the best player in the league that's been drafted outside of a Rockies player, if you ask me. After that, you got Clemente Herrera, of course, another guy on our team. Robbie Barreto, the brother of Jose. He at 21 years old, playing for the Guardians at an 83 overall. Coming off a pretty solid year last year, whipping the 1.3s, low 4s ERA. Hoping to, build off of that this year. Rene Bautista, the other guy here with kind of leadoff man capabilities. Not much of a fielder at all, but that contact versus right and plate skills combination is looking really good. Had, a part-time role last year and did okay in it, but I think he's looking to get a more substantial role this season for the Brewers. The next drafted player, generated player, would be Henry Tanana here out of Japan, also on the Phillies. The Phillies have done a great job drafting pitchers here. I mean, they're honestly almost as good at drafting pitchers as we are in this series, which is certainly saying something because we've drafted some awesome pitchers, but the Phillies already have a couple of guys well into the 80s and two guys that are either tied or higher overall than Jose Barreto. It's kind of because Jose Barreto hasn't developed super fast. He, of course, started really well. Maybe taken a little bit longer than we hoped to develop, but he's still in a really good spot to have his rookie season at 21 years old, so I'm not complaining at all about it. Next up, in terms of drafted players, you'd have Brian Doe, and he's actually the highest overall player, not in the MLB. So, he's ready for a call up, and under other circumstances, certain circumstances, he certainly would be playing in the MLB this year. Just for our team, we're going to let him develop one more year to kind of spread out our rookie years. Hideo Fong here out of Japan been a really awesome pick here by the Marlins. Not very good last year, but I mean, this guy's been in the league for a while now. They brought him up very early on in the franchise, and he's developing nicely into a very well-rounded skill set player. Of course, his strength is his contact hitting. Neil Dorsey up next. We know a lot about him. Angel Macias is the best generated lefty so far here in the franchise. Was decent there for the Cardinals last year. Not very much of a strikeout guy, but limited walks decently well. And I'm sure they're happy with this. The best lefty in a series that has had very minimal lefties. Morgan Villarreal here for the Toronto Blue Jays. So far hasn't hit for great average in his MLB career. Hasn't had much of a full-time role. 343 at-bats last year is a decent bit, but certainly has some power, particularly against lefties. I'm sure they're excited about going forward. Ronald Castillo, 22 years old, very good player for the Tampa Bay Rays. Wasn't great last year in his 70 innings pitched, but looks to be better this year. 79 strikeouts per 9. You'll love to see it. Michael Daly, I believe he's generated. I'm not sure if that's a real player, but a really good walks per 9 pitcher here. I'm going to guess that he is generated. And then Julio Gomez was just picked in the last draft, and he is starting at the MLB level for the Brewers. No surprise there. And he's going to be great right off the rip. 91 walks per 9, 89 strikeouts per 9. Part of the best reliever slash closer class I have ever seen. So there's a snapshot of kind of how the young MLB stars are looking at this point in time. And it's kind of crazy just how further up the board Murillo is than any of these players. Honestly, the next best, Jason Lindsay, also in the division, has been fun, and I'm looking forward to many future matchups against Lindsay here in the franchise. I wish the Giants were a little bit better so we had more reason to play the Giants more often, but it is what it is, and I enjoy occasionally checking in on Jason Lindsay in the series. I do want to see Richie Covey play. We haven't watched him play since he was a rookie, so I want to see him play as well. But there's a snapshot of the young MLB stars ahead of the 2029 MLB season. Another thing I wanted to talk about is Neil Dorsey did some work here in the offseason trying to, I don't know why this says pull hitter. I definitely changed it from extreme opposite to opposite. There it goes. It's supposed to be opposite, but it says pull hitter on his prospect card. That's weird. So which one do you trust? Do you trust this or the fact that in his actual ratings this says opposite? Anyway, the storyline is that he's gone from extreme opposite to opposite. Should help him a little bit in his hitting when we actually watch the games, so he doesn't have to go super oppo taco every single time he gets a hit. But now I'm concerned here. Let's see, is it the opposite for like Murillo? No, he's still a pull hitter. I wonder if the two-way stuff is messing with that for Dorsey. I don't know which one to trust. Do you trust that it says opposite here? Or do you trust that it says pull hitter here? Well, he's one of the two. I guess we'll find out when we start playing the games. I do want him to be an opposite hitter though, because I don't want to go from extreme opposite to pull. That's just way too much of a change. So if we watch some games and he ends up pulling a lot of hits, then we'll switch it so that he's an actual opposite hitter. But that's the storyline here with Neil Dorsey, trying to not become so extreme in his opposite field hitting ahead of his rookie season. Taking a look here at how the team did in spring training. Murillo, 293, 5 home runs for us. Dolander was great. Ethan Salas really struggled. Kopech did as well. Clemente Herrera was awesome, hitting 330 with 4 home runs. Barreto was incredible. Kyle Brown, okay. Tony Santillan, no earned runs in 10 innings. Thompson was terrible. Zach Veen, not great. Neil Dorsey pitched well. We can't actually see what he hit though. We'll assume he did well because he has it every turn possible. Omar Figueroa, 5 homers, 280 average. You gotta love it. Phil Gorzelski from just this most recent draft class, 2.4 ERA, less than a 1 whip. Andrew Moore was solid. Benny Montgomery and 50 at bats did well. Gonna be a backup outfielder for us. Smeltzer solid as always. And that's gonna do it here for the spring training wrap up. We would end up going 17-14, and it's time to get to the regular season. Now, I'm gonna show you the lineups and the pitching rotation that we're gonna rock with here to start this season. Kyle Brown will hit leadoff once more. Thought he was excellent in that role last season. Omar Figueroa, another guy who hit a really good average last year. I think he's going to be in that second spot. He also, despite the 35 speed, led us in stolen bases last year, which just tells you, I think, more about how bad we are at stealing bases than anything else. Rafael Murillo, as always, since day one, hitting in the 3 spot. Phil Gorzelski is not who we have hitting there. It's Neil Dorsey. That was almost catastrophic. I don't know why they changed that, but Neil Dorsey here in the DH spots. Zach Veen here hitting at 5, coming off a 33 homer season. Salas at 6, Clemente Herrera at 7, Thompson and Cerny kind of our defensive specialists there at 8 and 9. Then against lefties, Salas goes all the way up to the number 2 spot. Once again, need to change this. Don't know why they did what they did there, but we have so Salas and Figueroa pretty much switching spots. We have Clemente moving up a spot. Zach Veen down to 7. Not quite as good against lefties. And once again, these 2 defensive specialists there at the bottom of the lineup. Now with our pitching rotation, we've got Dollander, who will be our opening day starter and ace this year. Michael Kopech behind him. Jose Barreto at 3. Smeltzer at 4. And Neil Dorsey at 5. Long relievers we'll be having Yohan Blanco and Cole McCracken, who will be in his rookie year. Andrew Moore, Jeff Ramirez, Mari Lozano, Phil Gorzelski, and will be our middle inning relievers. Diego Castillo, the setup man, who was really good in that role last year. Going to have him do it again. And then Tony Santillan coming off a league-leading 55 save season. Absolutely earning that closing role again for us this year. So that's the lineup we'll be rocking to start. We'll see if we need to make any changes along the way. If you think there's a certain order here that would be better, either for moving somebody into the long relief role who's currently in the middle or whatever, or a lineup change, let me know. We are ranked as the 17th team in all of baseball, but after being just 1 game away from the playoffs last year and adding a lot of good rookie talent this year, I think it would be a disappointment if this team did not make the playoffs this year, despite the fact that we're technically just below average, I guess, as a team. We're almost top 10 in pitching, almost top 10 in defense, which is honestly kind of surprising to me. Middle of the pack contact still, despite the fact that we've drafted, I feel like, a lot of good power hitters. We're not quite into the, middle part of the league in pitching, still kind of more of the bottom tier, and we are middle of the pack in speed. Another one that I'm honestly surprised we're not lower in, but there you have it. What are your expectations for the Rockies this year? Playoffs? Do we win a playoff series? Do we miss it once more? Or are we still a year away? I think that's certainly possible because last year I think we certainly outperformed, but my expectations are playoffs. Don't know if we actually win a playoff series, but we've got opening day against the Diamondbacks, who were very busy in the offseason. If you did not watch the offseason episode, I would recommend it. They got a lot better, including getting 2 of the best free agents in the entire league, and we get to see them for game number 1 of the 2029 season. Let's get into it. So let's get into it officially here. Another year that we start our season against the Diamondbacks, but this year's team with some exciting additions to it. Should make for a good opening day. They signed the highest overall player that switched positions, at least. Acuna was the highest overall free agent, but he's stuck with his team. Getting Gunnar Henderson and Logan Webb, who will start today, makes the Diamondbacks a lot more competitive in a division that was already plenty competitive last year. The Diamondbacks, the only team that wasn't at least 500 last season, and certainly making the moves to try to get back above that number. Gonna be tough for us, I think, to repeat the success we had last year. I thought we overachieved, but I want to hear your predictions for this season. I do still think the playoffs are definitely in play for this team, despite the fact that we maybe overachieved last season. Kyle Brown gonna start the season off with a bang. Not a guy you typically would consider a power threat, but 442 feet on the first at-bat of the season. And the Rockies are on the board in a hurry here in Arizona. Getting things started off quite well. Last year it was surprisingly our pitching that did most of the legwork in terms of getting us to a playoff contender. But if I think we get back there again this season, it's going to have to be the offense carrying the load. Not saying, I don't believe in our pitching staff, but I do think our offense is further evolved, and it kind of fell down the stretch. One of those guys that fell off was Rafael Murillo, who finished with less than 30 home runs, but he also, like Kyle Brown, starts his season off going deep. 427 feet on his first plate appearance of the season, and definitely want to get him back over that 30 home run mark, hopefully back over 300 average as well. And if we can get that kind of season from Murillo, the one we had 2 years ago, I think we're in good shape to be a playoff team, and who knows, could even have a better season than that with better talent around and more runs to bring across home plate, stack up some RBIs. Neil Dorsey up to the plate for his first AB. Some of you have some pretty wild expectations for his rookie year. I don't know if I believe he'll do quite as much, but I am very excited and think he's got to be the easy favorite for at least rookie of the year, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets an all-star nod in his first MLB season. Chase Dollander here with his second year in that ace spot for the team, and was really solid last year. Wasn't elite by any means, but a sub-4 ERA with a whip in the 1.3s. I think you're going to take that for a Colorado pitcher, and had a couple of years though where it was kind of up in the air if Chase Dollander was going to be a long-term part of our team, but I think he's going to be sticking around at least until he becomes a free agent. And Corbin Carroll puts the Diamondbacks on the board here in the bottom of the first. The first home run allowed by Dollander of the season. Of course, that's the one thing that he has struggled with when we watch the games. Other than that, he has been pretty solid, if I'm being honest. But was actually pretty good in simulation at avoiding giving up home runs last year. But can he perform when we watch him? With Nolan Jones out of the division, as we see Gunnar Henderson, the biggest free agent of the season, up to the plate for the first time. But as I was saying, with Nolan Jones out of the division, who is our new nemesis? I think Corbin Carroll is a good candidate for it. He has a 3 home run game against us earlier in the season, including an inside the park home run. And he always seems to have good games against us, including, of course, this opening day. Already with a homer, and speaking of home runs, another solo shot from Colorado, our third of the game, 4th overall between the two teams. Feeling a lot like that last episode, or at least last episode with gameplay in it, where just a bunch of home runs put on the board. Another one over 400 feet, Ethan Salas. If I could pick one breakout player for this season, can we get it from Ethan Salas? We're paying him a lot of money. He's been an excellent defender, but I'd really love for him to become a stud offensive player this season. Clemente Herrera draws a walk here to start off the second inning. Bringing up Sterling Thompson. That'll be a base knock through that right infield. Another solid start to the inning for the Rockies offense. Looking to put some more runs on the board. Logan Cerny up next. This one won't quite get down. Corbin Carroll, not the best arm in right field. I think that's one you could test. Decided not to do so this instance. Leadoff hitter back up. Kyle Brown gets that one down in right field. 1 run scores, and again, I would have preferred if we tested that arm a little bit. It's not a great arm by Corbin Carroll. It's not horrible, but it's one that I feel like we should be testing a little bit more. Could have got an extra run, I think, had we been a bit more aggressive there. Rafael Murillo, second time up to the plate, and he's on base for the second time as well, this time via walk. Dorsey. Diving play made by Gunnar Henderson's gonna get him out. And the big free agent acquisition of the Diamondbacks already making some plays for Arizona, both with that extra base hit, now with a nice defensive highlight for him. 4-1 Colorado, bottom of the second now. Chase Dollander against Joe Adell, and it's a fly out to Clemente Herrera for the first out of the inning. Jake Rogers up next for the Diamondbacks, and once again headed towards Clemente Herrera, who out near the warning track hauls in another one. Hitting in the 8th spot is Tommy Troy, and hit once again into the outfield. This time, though, it's leaving the yard. 5 of the 6 runs scored in this game coming through solo home runs. Something you're seeing a lot more in baseball these days. And if these teams could just do a better job of getting some runners on base prior to these home runs, we could have ourselves a shootout here. Ramirez in the 9th spot grounds out to Sterling Thompson with a nice throw. So just the 1 run for Arizona here. Rockies lead heading into the 3rd. Zach Veen, his second time up to the plate, had a breakout season last year, and it's yet another Colorado Rocky home run. Make it 4 homers early on in this ball game, each from a different player. Broke out, led the team in home runs last season, did Zach Veen. Not a season I expected by any means, but was hoping to somehow get him higher up in the lineup. We just have a lot of guys that I think deserve to hit kind of in the top 4 or 5 in a lineup on our team. Ethan Salas hitting 6. Would prefer him to be higher as well, particularly with him having a good start here, 2 for 2, as Herrera draws his second walk already of the season. Thompson had to hit his last time out. Gets another one here, and it could bring home a run. Maybe even 2. And once again, we decide not to test the arm of Corbin Carroll there. A little bit too conservative on the base paths, which is usually the opposite of what I think happens. Usually we're a little too aggressive. That'll end the day here for Logan Webb. Ultimately, I think the Diamondbacks were hoping for a better start from their new ace, but the Rockies offense is just on a bit of a heater here. Christian Mena would come in for Arizona, get the first out, and then very well could have had a strikeout there on Kyle Brown as well, but instead the bases are loaded for Omar Figueroa, and he's going to ground into a double play. Unfortunate there. The Rockies really could have broken this game open. We'll have to settle for 6-2 here into the bottom of the 3rd as Dollander gets Drew Jones swinging. His second strikeout of the game. Madrigal goes down swinging as well. 2 consecutive strikeouts. Can we strike out the side? Corbin Carroll up next. Not going to be a strikeout here, but he does jam him up a bit inside, and it's a clean inning for Chase. Apart from a couple of home runs, he's really been doing well against these Diamondbacks. Murillo will be out for the first time this year with his third plate appearance already here in the 4th inning. Dorsey looking for his first hit, and he's got it of the season here. And a little base knock over to right field. Got to pay attention to see if he's hitting opposite field. That one was opposite. Got to see if that's the case on most of his hits. Zach Veen will just get out there in foul territory. I'll bring up Ethan Salas, and he's now 3 for 3 today. What an opening day from Ethan Salas. A homer, a double, and a single. And yes, that means, ladies and gentlemen, he's just a triple away from the cycle. No runs scored by the Rockies here in the 4th. Bottom 4 now, full count for Gunnar Henderson. Had a double his first time out, and this time he grounds out to Omar Figueroa. One gone here, bottom 4. Santander, another free agent addition of these Diamondbacks. They were very, very busy in the offseason trying to get a lot better. And so far, other than Gunnar Henderson, the other two guys haven't done too much for this team yet, but still a lot of time here in this game, at least for Santander. Logan Cerny 0 for 2 today. Got a pitch high in the zone and was underneath it for the second out. Rockies offense starting to quiet down a little bit here through these middle innings as we can't get anyone on base here in the 5th. A beautiful strike 3 there from Mena. Rogers pops it up into the infield. Omar Figueroa makes the easy play over at first. I'll bring up Tommy Troy. He's down swinging on the curve. Beautiful strike 3 pitch from Dollander, his 5th here of the game in the 5th inning. Good strikeout pace for him, and it's another clean inning. 6-2 remains the score. As we head into the 6th, Omar Figueroa got a good piece of this one, but it won't find the gap. Joe Waddell settles underneath it. Over in left field. Full count now for Murillo. He strikes out looking, was trying to get that second walk, but it was a very well located pitch there. Neil Dorsey 1 for 3 today. It's a 3-1 pitch high in the zone, popped up into center field. Drew Jones with the grab, and it's another quiet inning for Colorado. Strikeout number 6 for Chase Dollander, getting Drew Jones once more. Nick Madrigal up next. Liner over to Zach Veen, now playing left field with the addition of Clemente Herrera into the outfield here. And Corbin Carroll will draw a walk after that. Just the first allowed from Dollander. I really like how our pitchers don't allow a ton of walks here. As you let Corbin Carroll get on first, it's almost guaranteed he'll get to second. That puts a runner in scoring position for Henderson. This one to center field, and Cerny with the grab. No harm, no foul in the 6th. Veen. That one gets through the infield. Really hoping he can continue his upward trajectory after last year. Salas was 3 for 3 prior to this hit, but rounds into a double play there. 4-6-3 for Arizona. Herrera, 2 walks today. Now he strikes out. Hasn't been able to get that first hit yet, but has been able to get on base at least a couple of times. Santander remains hitless in this game as we head to the bottom of the 7th. And he will remain that way. Back to the dugout here. Joe Waddell strikes out looking there. Chase doing a nice job with the K's today. Keeping up that 1 strikeout per inning number here. And he's through 7 innings with 8 strikeouts. A really nice opening day from Chase Dollander. Just 3 hits allowed. The 7th would be his last inning here. The 2 home runs, really the only thing he allowed in this game, and 1 extra base hit from Gunnar Henderson. Other than that, did a great job keeping the Diamondbacks low on the scoreboard. Kyle Brown, 2 hits today, looking for number 3. It's tracked down by Drew Jones. Almost had himself a base knock there. Honestly thought it would be. Figueroa up to the plate, but Cerny finds his way to second. Rockies looking to add an extra run here. Omar Figueroa. That one will be off the wall. And it's going to easily score Cerny as he settles into second base. Make that 7-2 Colorado. Been a while since the Rockies have put a run up on the scoreboard, but they put one extra one here on. In the 8th, Neil Dorsey, his second hit of the season. And actually a pretty good throw from Corbin Carroll there, but once again, we decide not to test that on. Zach Veen, 2 hits today with a homer. Bases juiced, but can't keep the inning alive. Bottom 8 now. Time running out for Arizona. Andrew Moore would come in to relieve Chase Dollander. Was really good 2 seasons ago. Not very good last year. Hoping he can settle back into what he was 2 years ago. If not, this might be his final season in Colorado as he allows a walk there. That is his weakness. Base knock here, and now it's 2 on for Arizona. Don't want to give them any sort of rally here in the 8th. Madrigal pops it up to Andrew. Throw to first makes it 2 outs. All we got to do is retire Corbin Carroll. Had a homer earlier today, but pops this one up. So we get out of the 8th cleanly. Nothing doing for the Rockies in the 9th inning, so Jeff Ramirez looking to close this game out for us. Here was hoping we'd maybe see the guy that we drafted last year, whose name is currently escaping me. But instead, we'll see Jeff Ramirez, another guy we drafted way back in, I think, our 2nd draft. Kyle Brown with a diving play at second, and he makes the throw on time. My one complaint with Kyle Brown last year was I felt like we saw too many defensive lapses from him, but if he can come out this season and become a good defender, then, I mean, a leadoff guy with good defense at second, I don't think you can ask for much more than that, but we need that defensive improvement, I think, from him this year. And the Rockies officially secure the opening day victory, 7-2 over the Diamondbacks. The big offseason not helping Arizona here in this opening game of the season. The Rockies just had a bit too much power going, and Chase had an excellent opening day start. A good winning formula. 14 hits for the Rockies in this one. Simulating to the end of our first series, we would sweep Arizona here, scoring double-digit runs in back-to-back games here, and scoring at least 7 in every single game of the series. The offense off to a very good start here to begin the season, and hopefully a sign of things to come. Haven't yet had Neil Dorsey's first start. We'll have that next episode, and because we did not get a live stream in the spring training, didn't really feel the need to. I'm going to live stream, this next episode, which will be coming out Friday. Tentatively, it'll be around 2 p.m. Eastern, but certainly not going to hold myself liable to that. But Friday, we're going to stream. We're going to see Neil Dorsey's first start here of the new season and get deep enough that we can get our first look at the draft class for this year. But gotta love this start for the Rockies, 4-0. And the Padres also off to a very good start to the season, 5-1. Despite losing Nolan Jones, they're still looking good, led by Tatis and Volpe. But I had one request last episode to take a look at the Braves roster, and so we're going to do that here. And it is absolutely insane. We have Acuna, we have Alek Manoah, Albies, Strider, Torkelson, and Singer, all above 90. So they have 3 position players and 3 pitchers all 90 plus, including of course a 99 here in Acuna. And then after that, it's not much of a drop off either. Their fourth pitcher is an 89 overall, Sean Murphy 89, Royce Lewis third base at 88, Brandon Marsh 88, Michael Harris, Hurston Waldrop. So Waldrop is their worst starter at 87 overall. Matt Olson at first base, he's their second first baseman, and Austin Riley is their second third baseman, and Tyler Stevenson is their second catcher. Absolutely wild stuff this roster has. What is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 players, at least 85 overall. Gotta say that they're the most talented team in baseball. They're also, I mean, they could take a couple of injuries and still be really dang good. Even have a guy like Michael Daly coming up at pitcher who can help future-proof them a little bit. But, I mean, Sean Murphy's at 34 and Matt Olson's at 35. Other than that, you got to think everybody on this team still got a couple of good seasons in them at least. So the Braves will be a very tough team to match up against. They did just re-sign Ronald Acuna to a big-time offer this year, so he's staying with them probably until the end of his career. And we saw how good this offense can be in just one game last season, but this is, you know, if we're going to be a playoff team this year, this is likely going to be one of the teams we're going to have to get through. I don't see this team losing to anybody in the playoffs. My goodness, what a talented roster, and one that we can hope to someday be as good as. But that's all I've got for the episode. Live stream coming up soon, and I'll see you then. Go Rockies.